Good evening. Keeps up the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and joined tonight, as always, on a Tuesday, we have Rob, Fat Stacks of Comics. Rob, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing all out there, all you henchmen?
Right? We are all doing fine. Rob, thanks for joining me tonight. And, of course, our guest of honor this evening and throughout the week, because we will have him back Thursday on In the Hot Seat with the Usual Suspects. We have Nick from Comic Culture, his first appearance on the channel. Station Nick, thank you for showing up, sir.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm super excited to sit with you guys. Talk some comics, dude.
My fancy every time I hear somebody say that, because growing up as a kid, teenager when that movie came out, I was always, man, this is going to be the catchphrase, man, and it just never caught on. And to hear people 20 years later, every once in a while popping off a station, it just fills me with joy.
That's a blatant pop culture philosophers right there in the PCP crew.
You know, some of those movies that we all just grew up on, right?
Oh, Bill and Ted's was huge. My wife and I, we were huge Bill and Ted's. Still are, I should say. So, yeah, I won't count how many times I've seen the most recent one. It's pretty sad, actually.
It's actually pretty good.
It was.
It was better than it should have been
as well.
Exactly, way better than it should have been, or I would have expected. And I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Nick, as I like to do on these shows, before we get going.
Yeah,
like for anyone that's catching on the rewind who doesn't know who Nick from Comic Culture is, give a quick breakdown of who you are and what your channel's about, sir.
Yeah. So I'm Nick. I do a YouTube show, Nick at Night, weekly non-spoiler comic book review shows, and I also do like haul videos and how to get into comic books today. I've only been collecting since about 2016, 2017, so I have a different perspective perhaps than some other folks as far as like how to optimize your collecting ability. What new releases are coming out, what FOC means, how to navigate a comic book shop, things like that. So I have a bunch of videos on how to get into comic books as well. Some of the earlier content I was putting out. And then I do weekly reviews and haul videos, and I get to talk to cool people like you guys. So it's just a good time, little grab bag of content over on the channel.
He thinks we're cool, Gary.
Right? Thank God's payment went through, Rob.
Absolutely.
Now, we'll say a quick hello to the audience here in a second, but first I'd like to ask, how was it picking out your 12 comics? Was it difficult, or did you have a pretty easy time?
Yeah, so it was difficult to pick out some of them, but as you mentioned on previous shows and stuff like that, it's like just some books that you think are your favorite in your collection. There's going to be more on there, and it's like picking your favorite kid, you know what I mean? So it's like, I love seeing what other people are picking out for their top 10s, and so I'm pretty happy with what I picked out.
Nice. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Let's get over to the chat. We'll say hello to everyone that's joining us this evening. First in the door, as always, anyone could guess who that is. Our main man, Las Cruces. How you doing tonight, sir?
Station.
Then from the frozen north, hello, Jean. How you doing tonight, buddy? Comics by the Bay, Matthew. How you doing? Switch Comics. Good evening, Marco. How are you, sir? Naman. How are you, Naman? Good to see you, buddy. Our guest last week. Check out his episode. We have Trev, the shipping guru. How you doing this evening, Trev? Warlord, good evening, sir. Chop and Drop is here. Good evening, Chop. Carrie from Officially Unofficial. Good evening, Carrie. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Six Face Comics is in. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you. Caroline herself, Lady Fantastic. Good evening, Caroline. How are you?
There goes the neighborhood.
Brian LCS is in the house. Good evening, Brian.
What's up, Brian?
And let's see who else we got dropping in here. All right, chat. So we have Seth 11. Good evening, Seth. Nice to see you, sir. Awesome. And Collecting with Durs. Good evening, Adam. How you doing tonight, sir? And I think we are getting caught up.
It's always hard to pick up all those people that jump in randomly, right?
Yeah, you're flying through, yeah.
Joyce Cars and Comics, first time on the channel. Nice to see you. Good evening, sir.
Welcome.
Right? Love to see new faces.
Absolutely.
Big Herb.
And, I think we are caught up for now. Big Herb Collectibles Station.
Yeah, Big Herb, go to bed, man.
Right. All right. So without further ado, let's get to your first book, Nick, and why it's counted amongst your favorites.
Gary wastes no time.
I know. Let's jump right in.
5 minutes, we're there. Bam.
I will tell you.
The business.
I will tell you, I had a mini heart attack as you were going through these people because I'm like, I think I have 10 books here, right? I think I can count to 10. So nobody count how many books I have
Well, it's 12
going on
books
here.
altogether, remember?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you
You're
go.
right.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one I'm going to do is a little bit more of a modern book. A lot of these are. Again, I started collecting just a few years ago, but I have some older stuff in there as we get through. But it's a book that I have in my, like, if my house is on fire, I'm grabbing that book kind of a
Ooh.
pile. And so it's a little bit more modern. I don't think I need to take it out because of the glare. We're talking about Eastman's Last Ronin, #1, and it's especially it's actually remarked and signed by Kevin Eastman because I got to meet him at a con up in Huntsville last year, and so I just had a ball meeting him, reliving childhoods. I mean, I grew up on the Turtles, had all the action figures, played all the games. Me and my friends were like obsessed with it. I'm an 85 baby, so like it was like the perfect time frame. So this is a really cool book to get. I like the run, suffered from a bad release schedule, but awesome book. Very nostalgic. Kevin Eastman was awesome, got a great remark. So love this book. Glad it's in the collection for sure.
And that's cool when you get to meet the creators and
Yeah.
you enjoy meeting them, and they're not a complete jerk to you. They're just
So
completely
nice. Yeah, he was. The line was very, very long. People were waiting for hours almost. It felt like, just to meet him. But like every person that went up to him, it was like the first person in line that day. He had just so much warmth and was so personable. And it was just a pleasure to meet him. So definitely a hero I don't regret meeting. So yeah, great book. Awesome
And being an 85 kid, I'm going to guess that you grew up on the Turtles quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Like I said, I had the figures and stuff. And yeah, it was just awesome time, man. It was great. The games were great. I still play to this day.
Did you read that original run where it was a little bit darker and a little more adult? Because that original run was really good.
You know what? You're not the first one to recommend that. I need to go back and read that. I wasn't in the comics when I was a kid, so it's like something I missed out on for sure. And then the weekly grinds got me down right now, but I'll definitely put it on the backlog for sure. So yeah.
It's a completely different Turtles if you've never read it. But it's fantastic. It's not kidified in any way.
It's got me more intrigued than anything. I've heard that before. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
Well, man. It's funny as when you see these titles come out, sometimes the evolution that they take along the way to what they ultimately become.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And this run was fun because we had so much speculation about like, well, who is the last Ronin, right? Like who's going to be this turtle? We all had these ideas who it would be. And then we found out who it was. It was kind of just interesting to see like that turtle specifically had so much like humor in his life and everything. And like, he's just completely beaten down, at this point, because he's like the last one around. So it was fun. It was fun. Your comics are from 85. I know. Keep it coming. I can take it. Keep it coming.
Now, we can't show a turtle book without asking. It's like Power Rangers, right? You got to know who your favorite turtle is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like when I was younger, probably Michelangelo, just because he was so fun and running around and eating pizza and being silly and stuff. But like the other part of me, like Raphael as well, just because he was so serious and so headstrong.
I was always the Donatello guy.
Yeah, I never really connected with Donatello or Leonardo just because they seemed like in two worlds. The one was like a leader, one was like a tech guy. Like I wasn't really in that headspace growing up. I was more like in the party, but also like angry and like Rage Against the Machine kind of stuff, right? So it's like I think I resonated with those two depending on the day more than the other ones.
It's way easier to resonate with somebody skateboard and eat pizza. Cowabunga, dude.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the life.
Right,
man.
you're young and want to party, you instantly connect. All right,
exactly.
Dude, I was surrounded by that. I was living in Santa Cruz in this pure skateboard culture and surf culture at that time. So yeah, Michelangelo was everybody.
Right. Yeah. And I grew up in the cold winters of Buffalo. So it was like,
none of them played hockey. So you were.
Yeah. So I was a big Casey Jones fan, I guess.
Right, there you go.
Yeah. Because he played more other stuff.
All right. So #2, sir.
#2. So this might not be a surprise to people who are more familiar with some of my other appearances on different shows talking about different movies and stuff. But I recently just got this in. And it's a general this is actually Red Rider Comics. And forgive me, I do not have a issue number on here, but it's from November. Because they just threw stuff out back then. I wonder if it's in the top somewhere. It doesn't matter.
Dell has them like it's a weird code, but it depends upon whether or not it's 4-color or whether or not it's actually the Red Rider.
Right.
Because then it's a different numbering system as well.
Yeah. Some of these books were kind of convoluted back then, but I'll tell you the reason why.
Scott from Hoarder's Hide is in the chat. He'll probably tell us in a moment.
Yeah, go ahead and scan this, bud, and just tell me what you think.
All right.
But so this book could have fit in like the personal books as well a little bit, but this one's really cool because I grew up just loving Christmas Story, and of course the whole plot of that story is just Ralphie getting that BB gun, right?
Right.
And so it was a Red Ryder BB gun, Daisy, Daisy rifles or whatever it is, and so
Daisy air rifles.
Daisy air rifles, yeah. And I actually found one of those at Walmart a few years ago, and I keep it in the box and put it out with the Christmas stuff every year. And it was just kind of happenstance. I was going through some of the books at my shop, and this one was in the back bins. And I'm like, I don't have a Red Ryder comic. I was like, I got to get a Red Ryder comic, man, because it just goes with the whole persona.
And I didn't even know there was Red Ryder comics. So
that's I know it's something you don't run into very often, and
a fantastic cover.
It is. The colors really pop in here, and it's just really cool. I've showed off some of my Christmas Story stuff in the past. I have a whole village. I have the leg lamp. I have the whole 9 yards. And so to complete the ensemble, to complete the collection, I went ahead and got the Red Ryder comic. And this was proudly presented downstairs in the living room with the other Christmas decorations throughout the holidays. So I got to look at this every single day. So
now the only thing you have left to complete it is to shoot an eye out.
I'm going to try to avoid that one, Gary, I think. I'm gonna keep both eyes intact.
You're not a real fan.
I'm not a method fan. You're right. Yeah, but that art, man, is so cool in these covers. I love that so much.
It is. And I love, I always say it, I love the air. I love border covers, and that has like a nice natural border on it. And it just showcases the art better, I think.
Scott says it's issue 64.
I knew it. Thank you so much.
I knew Scott would know. Yeah. Or at least he would look it up.
That's right. Yeah. So very, very cool. Only one they had. I'll probably pick up some more. Maybe one with the rifle actually on it, because maybe that's missing. Oh, you got a stock right here.
Or with the ad on the back for the air rifle.
Yeah. You know what? I wouldn't doubt if there's something inside this book that would show that.
You know, that would be great too, like on a mantle with the stock, like a whole row of those with stockings hung in front of them.
I like the way you think, man. I just got to get the wife on board. Right. I think she'd be on board. She's more of a fan of this than I am.
Well, you know, tell her Gary B, the casual comic guy, said it. I'm sure it'll win her over. And she'll be like, who the hell's that? You're not allowed to talk to that guy anymore.
Your influence is far and wide, my friend.
That's right. You're such the influencer, Gary.
Right? We'll get him put it in the timeout corner right away with the wife. I don't know who
she's got her own vices, is, but she's got her own collection vices. Believe me.
So. Right. All right.
Yeah.
Number 3, Nick.
Number 3. Okay. Again, I've brought this up before, but it's a book that I absolutely love from a series that got me into comic books. A villain that I would argue is probably, in my opinion, one of the top villains created, not only for his first appearance, but also for the character arc, not only in the show and the comic. But we have The Walking Dead issue 100, first appearance of Negan. And this book is something that kind of blew me away. I remember watching the TV show. By the time the show caught up to this, I was ahead in the comics because I just kind of caught up, and I realized, oh my God, there's a comic for this stupid show. I gotta read through and blast through where we are right now. And I knew this event was coming, and complete shock in the books and the TV show. I don't think, no matter who you were, if you're a reader or a watcher, you weren't prepared for this particular issue or that scene in the show. So Negan, amazing villain, great character art, great story. Love it so much.
Gary, have we had Walking Dead on this show?
No, I was to say this is the first time anyone showed a Walking Dead. I don't think
I've had it on Only Slabs either, to be honest.
Right, for such a big property.
Yeah.
Now, do you also get the Walking Dead Deluxe?
You know what? I thought about doing that because when I started watching the show from the beginning, and then I realized, again, I didn't start collecting until later in life. And so I was like, oh, I can read the comic and get like a slightly different version of this. So I picked up, I don't remember exactly where, but I blasted right through the books. And then I'm like, well, maybe I can get the deluxe issues up until when I started collecting, when it was coming out regularly. But then I started looking at the space, and I did the quick math in my head about the how much it would cost to actually do all that. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll just get the key issues like 1 and like Michonne and things like that, Abraham's Army. I'll just get some of the keys that I also have first prints of, but I'll get the colored versions as well. So
now, do you prefer the black and white or color?
I mean, I like the black and white for like the nostalgic look, and that's how I originally kind of consumed the medium to begin with. But the coloring, there's certain scenes that the coloring really, adds a whole nother layer to it, obviously. But I like the original art. I think the black and white is something different. It was bold,
Yeah, and you
especially at
get to
like
see
this
the
time.
line work and
Yeah, yeah. And at this time, it's like there's no reason why it shouldn't have been in color to begin with. I don't know if there's a story behind that I'm not aware of, but like, yeah, I kind of like the black and white. It made you
now
You don't
how
have to
think
pay.
of
You don't
more.
have to pay an inker if you
You don't have to
keep
pay
it
an
black and
inker.
white,
You
or at
turn
least a
around a little
colorist
quicker.
rather. A colorist rather.
That's
I mean,
true. Yeah, yeah.
you
Color.
still have a tracer. You're a tracer.
Yeah, yeah. So cool though. Yep.
now how weird is it, right? I mean, what an idea these guys had that no one else did. Well, we have this whole run. Hey, let's put it out in color and still make money from it all over again.
Did you honestly think they were going to go from 1 to what was like 193? Like when we heard that news, I was like, are they really going to go that far? Or are they going to let sales figure this out?
I
You
figured
know
they
what I
would
mean?
let sales dictate it because
Yeah.
sales dictate everything, right?
Yeah.
If they're selling really well and they're putting out like 6, 7, 8 covers of each issue,
Yeah.
and they're still selling, they're going to keep taking the money.
Yeah. But we're in the 50s now too, because Abraham's Army came out a week or so ago.
I think 57 or 58 it was the
Wow.
last release, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, they're making their way, man. They're going to hit them all before we know it. So
Well, that's the thing is, right? They're already all made. They
yeah,
probably went through and did the coloring process before they even started releasing them just to have it ready.
or they got one of those AI things that everyone's raging against right
Oh,
now,
come on.
and
There's kids in Malaysia that can be banging out.
they're knocking this out in no time.
Right.
Just
Stay in
drawing
the
guts all.
lines, kids.
Stay in the
Right.
line,
Hey,
yeah.
did you learn how to color or not? Just kidding. All right, number 4 before
Yeah,
we get
man.
ourselves canceled.
Well, this is not a good book to bring up if you're worried about being canceled.
Then bring it up anyways.
Right.
Here we go. No,
I just considering that last week my show had all Hitler covers for an hour and a half. I don't think you could do much worse.
I didn't get any warning prior to the show that Hitler covers weren't acceptable. Okay. All right. Well, here's my top 6 books instead of my top.
All right.
So we have, this is the trade because I unfortunately don't have a first print, or I don't have a number 1, honestly, even a reprint of number 1. That's on my 2023 list. But we have Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples' Saga.
I love Saga. I have
volume
all
one.
7 trades of it too, so don't feel bad.
Yeah. These
I
are
know a guy. He's got like 75 copies.
Oh yeah.
You won't pry a copy out of his hand, but
He's got every reprint.
We know a guy.
9.8. I know.
Right.
I need to steal just one.
That's right.
I just need one. Hook me up, Andy. All right. So we have Saga.
Everybody knows that's Andy. Andy's got them all.
Andy does have them all.
That's why you can't
them.
find any in the wild. Andy
Well, you know
has
what?
them all.
So I was looking for a Saga, and I was looking for, actually I have one coming up that I'm looking for a number 1 as well. And when I go to cons, it's like I go up to a booth and they just have nothing but big 2. And it's like if I ask for anything indie, they give you this weird look. They're like, "No, we're real comic book collectors." I'm just like, get the hell out. Yeah, anyway, don't get me started.
How dare you like any story that's not one of the big 2?
How many times am I going to see Wolverine die? No. So Saga, man. So when I got into comics, it was mostly like Walking Dead. Saga was very much in motion back then, around in like 2016. And I can't remember exactly how I got onto it. I think what happened was I was starting to type in like what you do when you first start doing anything, like top 10, Image books, top 10 Marvel books, top 10 DC books. And this book kept on hitting the top 10 Image list consistently. So I'm like, well, I got to check it out. And like, if you guys know, right?
Right.
Like the very first page, which I won't show you in here, is, first couple pages, graphic as hell, but it's just such a beautiful, like Romeo and Juliet in space kind of a story involving a baby that shouldn't exist.
It's kind of hard to like, no matter what you say, it doesn't do it justice.
Doesn't do it
One of
justice.
those niche things that once you read it, you get it.
I know. It is hard to articulate. And Fiona Staples, man, her art in this book is incredible too. It's not like super detailed, but like it's just absolutely gorgeous nonetheless.
Oh yeah,
It's such a good
story
book.
really well.
Yeah.
And you get the emotion. What I like about her art is you get the emotions of the characters. Like, and it's weird too, because for a book that's as wide expanding as that one is and covers so many different areas,
Yes.
you really connect with all the characters in it, which is a testament to his Brian K. Vaughan's writing too.
For sure.
Like you have definitive feelings about every single character that you interact with in that book.
You do. You do. You're absolutely right. And it's very much like a Game of Thrones-ish kind of a thing, because it's like don't get connected to the characters kind of a thing. But it's just such a great book. Actually,
As that first cliffhanger floors you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it
When
does.
at the end of that initial run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I think I brought it up in my top books of last year video too. That Saga made the list, and it was just something about the return of this this story, and some of the confirmation that we got of some of the things that we ended with on 54. It was like heartbreaking, yet at the same time you were like happy to see the family again. You make connections with everybody, like you said, you connect everybody. Such a great job with the writing and art in this book.
Right, just odd characters, like Lion Cat or the ghost babysitter, and just weird characters that you would think you wouldn't care about, but you end up really being invested in.
Yeah, and you know what? When you go to the store and you see the Funko Pops out there too, you have to buy them as well. So I'm guilty of buying like Lion Cat Funko Pops, but yeah, it's a great read, man. It's probably, of everything I've read in the past like 6 years or something like that, it's probably in my top 3 to 5 books for sure.
Right. In the top 3 characters in that family you care about so much.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, those aligned against them, you hate with every intestinal fiber of your being.
Yes. But you know what they do though? Very much like Negan in The Walking Dead, they make you hate this person to the core, and then they'll team their heroes up with them. That's all I'll say. You know what I mean? For like short periods, and you're like,
and then all of a sudden there's another flip and you're back to hating.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the beauty of the storytelling, man. It's just like, it's a great story. It's a great story. If you have the stomach for it, which, a lot of people probably should or would, check it out. It's really, really something else.
And we're talking about like how good the storytelling, but there's just some flat out great humorous moments that'll make you break out laughing too.
The first 2 pages.
So well balanced.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, number 5.
Not at all. Number 5. So you can throw the red flag if you want to, because this is actually a double thing, and I'll just coin flip it. But basically, grew up loving the X-Men animated series, playing a lot of the games. When I got into comics, this was kind of coming up. And so this was really one of the first modern X-Men that I was getting into, but this is House of X and Powers of X. So I brought a double for this one. If you want one, boom, I would just pick one. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, but no, the controversial Hickman stuff.
Yeah. So he has a way of writing that just has he can introduce a level of like gravity and seriousness to a situation that I don't think many writers can do, right? Like you can almost, when you're reading certain panels, things kind of slow down. This is what my experience anyway. Things can kind of slow down. You get like this tunnel vision. You can hear music because like the scene he's describing, and the artist on here did such a good job of just portraying these really dramatic scenes. And I don't think I've ever read anything like it or since, or like it since, right? So just an absolute beautiful job with this. And like I keep reading more modern X-Men stuff, like some of the current runs. It just doesn't capture that same vibe and that feel. But I'm glad we got some cool issues here. And Hickman just murdered it on this book. I absolutely love it.
Now, who's your favorite X-Men character, and why is it Dazzler?
And why is it Dazzler? Man, I don't know. Again, I think when I was younger, I mean, everyone loved Wolverine when they were younger, I think, and probably still to this day. I liked Cable a lot as I got older because I respected his origin story and the complexity of it. And I think he was just kind of a cool character with all the pouches and guns and stuff. Like he was the one that stood out to me as well.
Right. When you think 90s, you'll always think Rob Liefeld.
Exactly.
No, I always think 2099, but that's just me.
2099. I liked Rogue a lot. I liked Rogue and Gambit back in the animated series days. That was a cool dynamic and cool powers, and yeah, that was pretty awesome. I just like him whipping around a staff and throwing cards at people. That was cool.
Yeah, the cool kinetic energy with the cool colors around the cards and all that.
And he had the accent. And he had every woman he wanted. Yeah.
And I don't know, the X-Men books in the 90s were just, it was one of those things that was in a really good, in the 80s and 90s, it was just in a really good spot.
Yeah, yeah. And I
I mean, that
remember,
title stayed great for a long time.
Did it?
I don't know. See, I was always reading it and really connecting with the characters. Back then
so,
too, I loved Bobby Iceman because he was just,
yeah.
you know, back then if you were to cast Iceman, that's who
Mhm.
you would have cast Robert Downey Jr., younger Robert Downey Jr. as Iceman because he was such a player back then in
Yeah,
the old X days.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, there's
Right.
yeah, I just love this run. It was just so good. But
Now,
no, I just
when the next movie comes out, is there
yeah.
any character that hasn't been shown yet in the X
Oof.
universe that you want to see Marvel bring to the forefront?
Hmm.
We
They
already
brought
know we'll get Wolverine. We'll get Jean Grey. We'll get Cyclops. Those are like the
yeah.
Holy Trinity. And then you have Professor X to lead them.
You know what? And we had Moira, I think, in like First Class or whatever we had, but I'd like to see her character fleshed out a little bit more
Well, especially
into
since they actually made her a mutant now.
right. Yeah, exactly what I'm. Yeah, coming off of this arc here, I think that she's got some interesting stuff to explore with her abilities and whatnot that they're kind of abusing. I think in the upcoming runs and what they're doing right now. But yeah, I think she was a really interesting character, especially since she just kind of just knew everything and blew everyone's mind. I like anybody who can really disrupt the status quo, and I think she did exactly that in this Hickman run here. So yeah, yeah, I think she'd be kind of cool to bring back in and kind of flesh out a little bit more. There's so many characters though; it's like hard to even think. A lot of people want Gambit. I'm not too excited about Gambit coming, but maybe they'll do it right. We'll see.
Yeah, no, everybody wants to see skin.
now,
Right, right, yeah. No, it sells right. Yeah.
now, before we move on, do you have a favorite X-Men storyline? There's so many classics. Is there one that speaks to you that you can read all the time? I mean, you said the
Yeah,
House of X and Power of X, but is there a classic storyline that you really connect
yeah.
with?
I think the first one I read, in again, forgive my inexperience with it and how much I've actually read, but House of M was great. I think that was one of the first ones I collected just because, again, it was on that like top 10 list. You know what I mean? I wasn't reading when these books came out, so like I had to go back and figure out what the best stuff was according to other people. And so I remember getting that one and just kind of being blown away by that theory, like just that concept in general of how powerful Scarlet Witch is and all that stuff. It was just kind of great. And I actually reread that again before the WandaVision show, just because there's a lot of speculation about it
Right.
going in that direction. And I think it held up. I just loved it. And Wolverine was forefront of that as well. Like, hey, something's wrong. We got to figure out what's going on.
And
So
I'm pretty excited about Hugh Jackman coming back in Deadpool 3
how do you
because
think it's gonna
that's
work?
just going to be balls
Yeah,
out crazy with him and Ryan Reynolds on screen together.
of course. Of course. I still try to think like how are they going to pull that off? And they keep saying it's not going to undo his death, right? Didn't they mention that too?
Well, because at the end of Deadpool 2, he stole the time travel device from Cable.
Okay, so he's just going to go back. It's going to be a time travel thing. Yeah.
Right, and I can't wait
Yeah.
to see the first time that Wolverine puts his claws through Deadpool's skull.
It's right through his ching or through his head.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be
That's gonna
great.
be
Time
funny.
travel, there's multiverse, there's non-linear storytelling, there's all kinds of
Right,
options.
and
Marvel's
Jackman doesn't seem to get any older, so he's got that good
no.
Australian blood flowing through
He's
him.
got that cruise juice, man.
Right
Whatever they're doing, they can't release it to
now,
the public. We'll never go.
before we
So,
move to number 6, favorite X-Men movie.
oh gosh. I'm gonna Logan is probably my favorite X-Men movie, but I like the original X-Men and I liked X-Men 2. I think a lot of people would agree with that. 3
The
was kind
X-Men
of
2 opening scene was just wowed everybody back in the day. It's like,
was great.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that's the way to go. Logan was just beautiful in its own because it just felt like a completely different movie. It was like a modernization of it was like a less cheesy version of what we've seen before in that universe. You know what I mean? Like
It was
X-Men.
just good to see him, yeah, just full
Yeah,
force, what you always wanted to see Wolverine let loose as.
right,
And just,
right.
and I think for me personally, I was blown away by Daphne Keane as Laura Kinney. Like, I wanted a movie
Yeah.
with her after. Like she
Yes,
was
yeah,
menacing every time she was on screen. Like she just
she
stole
was.
part every time she did anything in that movie. She was stealing the scene.
Her emotion, the looks that she was able to give. It
And
was
just
great,
the
man.
brutality. You're like a kid. How's she going to feel brutal? She felt completely brutal every time she
Yeah,
was on.
she had that rage in her. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That we knew from Wolverine. So it's like it was perfect, perfect casting. They did a hell of a job with that. But yeah, I think Logan. There's probably no giant surprise there. And then some of the original X Men were great. I didn't like the First Class and things like that. I wasn't a fan of those really. Those
Right.
didn't really
The
vibe with me
reboot.
that much. Yeah. All the we're going back and doing all this stuff. Didn't really vibe with that stuff. But
And I know
I'm
you
glad they're
need
here.
and I know you need Magneto as part of it. But
Yeah.
I think we need to get away from Magneto being the main storyline of these.
Right.
Because
Right.
even when it was Apocalypse, Magneto was still pretty much the
Yeah.
main story. You know?
Exactly. He was definitely there a lot.
Yeah.
For sure. For
Like,
sure. Yeah.
why can't we get one that just focuses on Mr. Sinister and it's all them having to scramble
Yeah.
or just so many of these great, or even the
Yeah.
Morlock storyline. And there's so many classic
Mhm.
stories they could explore.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they, who knows how the reboots are going to go and what direction the MCU is going to take them in. So, yeah,
It
it'll be
is fun to
exciting.
speculate on it, though.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
for
Number
sure.
6,
For
sir.
sure. Let's see here. Where do we want to start here? So I kind of mentioned this book. I didn't mention the book, but I mentioned the fact that I want this number one at some point. This is a Image comic, still an ongoing series. We have W. Maxwell Prince, and we have Morazzo on the art, and O'Halloran. We have Ice Cream Man issue. What is this? Image First, number one. This
Right.
is
The reprint, the
the
dollar reprint.
reprint. The dollar. Well, I'd like to think that it's worth more than $1 to me. Okay.
Well, a lot of those reprints are worth more than what you initially paid for them when they came out.
Yeah.
They're holding value, a lot of them.
Yeah. So this represents the Ice Cream Man's story in general. It's a heavy book, man. It's a heavy book. Oh yeah, actual Jack is in here. So yeah, he just interviewed Morazzo the other day, and great job with that, by the way. And that was something else. So props to you on that. Really good book. If you don't know what it's about, we have kind of like an anthology-ish kind of a series. In the beginning, we did have a little bit of connective tissue where this Ice Cream Man was driving around in town, and whoever he interacted with, their life kind of went to hell, right? It just started getting messed up. And so we kind of abandoned that a little bit. He's still around, but it's more about exploring all these different people's lives and the highs and lows, either like family dynamics, depression, suicidal tendencies, clinical trials, going through therapy, family issues, whatever it might be. They just do a great job of exploring those in a very unique way, in a way that you don't read in comics anywhere today. So it's a really, really great book.
You mean it's not the story of a man who gains superpowers from eating radioactive frozen dairy desserts?
I was gonna say maybe he had one too many gelatos and he gets like
Right.
Wow, I've been
some kind
reading the
of
wrong
powers.
story,
I
apparently.
know. Indies, man. What are we gonna do about them?
Now we just need the spin-off Funnel Cake Man.
Funnel Cake Man.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that he had his old coin changer, and that's he threw out these coins at people. And
Now,
The music
you're not
drove
the
you
first one to
insane.
bring that book on. That book connects with a lot of people as amongst
Yes.
their favorites. And there's different stories. And I'm talking to someone who hasn't read any Ice Cream Man as of yet.
Ah,
Now, everyone that comes on, they all have like a specific story in one of those issues that they connect
oof.
with. So it really covers a lot of area.
It does. Yeah, I think it's one of the only books that really understands the dark side of humanity, and but can actually like articulate it not only in the writing but in the drawing as well. And like to deny that side of your existence is at your own peril, right? So
Right.
this book really explores it, even if you're not going through something like this or never have. You understand it, right?
Yeah, it connects you on the human level.
Yeah, it's just so basic, but it's beautiful and brilliant. So pick up the Sunday special. It's the collected edition. I think the next one's coming out as well. It's great, man. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a great book.
Nice. All right. Issue numbers. Number 7.
could be issue 7. We don't know.
Right.
Let's see here. we are going to go with, you know what? I mentioned this character before. So let's go ahead and get into this one. This one's a slab. This one might reflect a little bit. This is New Mutants 87.
Okay.
So New Mutants 87's first appearance of Cable. And so let me put it in an angle here. Ignore
Very
that.
homage cover as well.
A cover that you see as an homage every other week because everyone loves to rip this one off. Cable was an interesting character. When I first got into comics, I didn't know where to start. Like, where do you start? You go to the shop and it's full of boxes of comics and you recognize some of the characters, I recognized Cable from when I was a kid because I think one of my friends had the action figure and he was just awesome. And so I remember from the show and for the animated series. And New Mutants was a run that you could easily find in the dollar bins in any comic book shop in America.
And it was really good. It was underrated.
And it was not bad, right? Yeah. So I started my Marvel X-Men journey in New Mutants. So it was the first series that I really tried to collect. I still don't have them all. There's still a big gap. But I just kind of fell in love with the character because he's, very prevalent in the first part of it as well. Putting the team together.
He introduced not only the pouches, but the oversized weaponry.
And the small ankles.
Right.
I mean, it was great.
It's important when you have a gun that weighs twice what you do and you're wielding it like a toothpick. You need really tiny ankles to support that weapon.
He wouldn't do great on the hockey rink, right? Like he would snap or in the basketball court too. He would snap his ankles pretty quickly.
He wasn't playing basketball, but
he wasn't. He was cracking skulls. That's what he was doing, and that's what he was good at. And I liked it. I loved it. It was awesome. So it was like the first Marvel character I really fell in love with in a comic form. It was easy to pick up. It was a run I was collecting, and I was like proud to finally get in 87. And it was one of the first books I ever sent off to get graded. Before I even knew what pressing and cleaning was, I'm just grabbing books and throwing them out of sight I've never heard of before, and it comes back in this cool case.
Right. Plus, he had a cool bionic eye.
Yeah, and it's like glowing and stuff. I mean, come on, the dude was awesome.
And he didn't look like your standard hero. He was an older guy with gray hair.
He was grumpy and he like beat kids up. So yeah.
And back when you could still have a cigar in comics, right?
So it was Clint Eastwood. We got it.
He was an older, bigger Clint Eastwood. Get off my lawn. Yeah. He was a cool dude. He was a cool guy. I love that book. It's really neat.
Did you like the big reveal when you learned he was like Scott's Scott's kid and stuff? And
his origin story is like so convoluted. It took me several attempts to like try to figure that out. That was the other cool thing about him. It was just like, no matter how hard you try, it's always something you got to think down and like, I got to get a piece of paper out. It's like, how did he get the techno-organic? Okay, he went back and there's a clone of him. He looks like the Super Shredder. It's like, okay, well, it's just so it was so cool.
What did you think of his portrayal in Deadpool 2?
I liked it. I think they nailed like the grumpiness and the seriousness of the character.
I didn't think he was as physical opposing as he could have been.
Well, so that's the problem, right? There's only like 2 people in the world that are like that size. But I think Josh Brolin, I think he did a pretty good job of portraying the character and like his mannerisms. But yeah, I think you're right. Physically speaking, he could have been twice his size.
Right, because when you think Cable, when he comes on the screen, he needs to command all the attention when he enters.
Yeah. I think they did a pretty good job, though. I think it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
All right, number 8, Nick.
Number 8. We're gonna do. I think we're gonna do this one right here. What's up, Fable?
Sorry, Lady Fantastic understands. Clones are bad. I'm gay.
Right. Yeah, if we could just get rid of we could get rid of one trope in comics. Get rid of clones.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
You can keep bringing the heroes back from the dead. We expect that because
clones followed by LMDs.
Right. But yeah, get rid of clones.
Yeah, probably. I was trying to think if there's another one that really irritates me nowadays. I'm sure there is. But yeah. All right. So this book here, a little bit of a story with it. This is a book where, again, in the beginning when I was collecting, I was looking up like best covers and things like that because I was fascinated with cover art as well. And when I saw this cover, I'm like, that's the greatest cover of an old book that I could ever imagine. So this is X-Men number 35. This is the Along Came a Spider, X-Men 35. Now, I mean, it's like
Nice book.
you have Spider-Man jumping in on our regular X-Men here, right? Our first class here. And Along Came a Spider. It's like the perfect little tagline. Now, I bought this book raw when I first found it, and I finally got a good price for it. And then Stan Lee was actually visiting Wizard World in Nashville, and I got to go meet Stan Lee in 2017. So this is like a year into me collecting. And so it was like a long wait in line. He was already in a pretty pathetic state at that point, unfortunately.
Right.
He was mostly just, people were sliding things in front of him, and his hand just had this motion, right? And then somebody would slide it over.
It was like it was motorized almost. And
yeah. You could just tell he was
propped up with a stick, and
it was a sad sight, man. It was sad, but I remember sliding up. I was next. I slid this copy in front of him. He had a smile on his face. The ironic thing is he didn't write this book. He didn't write this issue. This is Roy Thomas, but he looked at it. You could see he reacted somehow. He signs it. And my wife, I was kind of starstruck, honestly. My wife says, thank you for everything that you've done. It's an honor to meet you. And he looks up and he like smiles at her. And it was cool. It was really, really cool. So it was neat that I was able to find this book, get it in front of him, get his autograph, get to meet the legend himself. And it's two properties he's most known for, right? And it's a beautiful cover.
There you go.
So,
and I love too with Spider-Man, the franchise character for Marvel, right? That every time he crossed over with the X-Men, it doesn't matter what group of big bads they met, they could always demolish him quickly. But Spider-Man, because he's the franchise character, just always had a way of not being caught by him or outflanking them. And they just couldn't handle Spider-Man. Just don't have spider powers, and we got you covered.
Right. Yeah. It was a cool book. I'm happy to have that one, man.
And I always like too that because Iceman and Johnny Storm, they always kind of had similar characteristics back then, right?
Yeah.
And that Spider-Man kind of had the same relationship with both of them. They're like, those were like the three smart-ass cracking characters that had more going on underneath than what their cracks were covering up, right? Because they all had something else going on other levels.
Yeah, they're like damaged characters, right? I mean, like, but they always had that level of quip. They had these quips right on hand, and they had this levity to their character.
Humor is a defense mechanism.
Right, but what they did good with those stories is anytime those characters were together, they would have a little conflict, but they always kind of had their back, and there was always a camaraderie that was fun to read with those characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to do more, like earlier Spider-Man reading. But it's like daunting, right? There's just so much out there. So I want to hit the highlights at some point. But
now, did you ever get into Marvel Team Up with Spider-Man? Because there was just those books are so much fun, and most of them are one-offs. You have a couple story arcs, like 2 or 3 issues, but most of them are just one-off pairings, and they're great.
Yeah. I need to get into that. There's so much stuff on the backlog from the classic perspective, man. There's so much out there. It's great.
All right, nice. Number 9. And you got Troy's telling you that Marvel Team Up is great, but everyone agrees. Marvel Team Up and Marvel 2-in-1, 2 great series.
So whenever I have the opportunity to do these kinds of
Marvel classics
shows, I always bring a notepad with me, and so I always like to write down these kinds of things. So if anybody has suggestions, please feel free to fire them away here, so we can do that. That'd be awesome. 2-in-1, yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you. Number 9. Let's get into number 9. So
whenever I hear number 9, it's just that old Beatles song always pops in my head. Number 9.
Should we get Brother Joe to sing that next week? We can. He's in a Beatles kick right now. We can get him to do that. Boom Studios, Ram V put out a book a couple of years ago that was an insane premise. Fell in love with it, and it's definitely something that I bought multiple copies of, and I just loved it so much. This is the Many Deaths of Layla Starr, issue number 1 from Boom Studios. Ram V, Felipe Andrade on here as well. Incredible story. Have either of you read this run?
I have
I
not.
have not. I'm probably going to buy the trade. I
Worth
ended up
worth it.
having the whole run, but I gave it away as a giveaway because I knew it was popular.
It's a good giveaway. It's a good giveaway. Basically, we have Death, who has been fired, right? So it's like just imagine the afterlife, all these different gods and stuff like that, all these different powers are in like a corporate environment, right? Death gets brought into the office, into the boss's office, and they say, listen, we're going to let you go because you're no longer needed.
Right.
And of course, that's like, how can death be no longer needed? What's going on? Well, the premise of the book is there's a boy that's about to be born any second now that will grow up and cure death. So there is no need for you anymore in existence because death will be solvable. And
It'll
so
be
we don't need you
obsolete.
anymore. You'll be obsolete. So they cast death down to the mortal plane, and death inherits the body of Layla Starr, a recent suicide. And then death has different interactions with this boy who is born throughout his life through these different time jumps that they explain in here. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a very humane story. It's a very personal story. It's like she's learning all these lessons about life and mistakes and growing up and relationships and all these different things that she never had to encounter. Death didn't have to encounter in her previous form. And it's a very, very beautiful story to watch this child grow up and the interaction between those two characters as that plays through. And so I remember reading this and just being like, wow, I've never heard a story. I've never heard a story like this before. It's very, very unique, very different, and it blew me away. So it's definitely on my top list.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that I think that's been talked about before. So that's one that definitely connected
Ah,
with people.
it's a heck of a book, man. Ram's really good. If you like those more mystical kind of books, Ram does a great, great job with that stuff, man.
Number 10.
Number 10. Let's see here. All right. So this is another book that resonated with me personally. Again, it's a modern book, a little bit little divisive here. And I can't wait to see some of the reactions in the chat. We have a Tom King book. Okay. And so this is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Yes. I love this series.
That's right. And I love it so much I had to encapsulate it because it was dirt cheap to buy this in the market. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow was so it came out of nowhere for me. It was a character. I remember seeing the number one come out, and I remember going, okay, it's Tom King. He's hit or miss for me personally. And he's featuring a character I really don't know a whole lot about, but I'm interested in it. It's only 8 issues. And then I remember flipping through and seeing the art in here. And Evelyn Lopes is on this, and they are brilliant together. She's an amazing artist, and Lopes is an amazing colorist. But you know, when I flipped through it, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy it on the art alone, even if the story is not that great. The story is a little heavy. There's a lot of dialogue in it, but I feel like it really portrays a human element and puts a lot of gravity in situations, and it changes her backstory. It doesn't change it. It adds a whole lot more context.
It enhances it.
It enhances it. Like, we know she's on a separate piece of Krypton that exploded. She grew up in an environment where like metal was put down on the floors, and that's all you hear in the old books. That's it, you know. And then one day, like, some meteors come through, or they punch holes, and they have to get out of there. But this adds a whole lot of concept to it, and
Now,
it's a great book, man.
when I got drawn to that book, I always I'm I'm known as the Conan, Robert E. Howard, Red Sonja guy, but I'm
Is that
also a
right?
big Women of Marvel guy. Like, I'm a huge Black Cat collector, Dazzler, a
Yeah.
couple other characters, that I just think are
Yep.
phenomenal. But I was always interested in Supergirl when that book came out. Much like
Yeah.
you, the art first they gave her a sword on the cover, so that instantly attracted me to the book. Right?
Yeah.
I'm
For
like,
sure.
why does Supergirl have a sword?
Like a pirate, like a
Like,
saber.
why would she need
Yeah.
a sword, right?
Yeah.
She's Supergirl.
Yeah.
So I looked inside, and the art is the thing is it's so distinctive. It's either going to catch you or it's not, right? It's either going to put you
Yeah.
off or it's going to draw you in.
Yep.
It drew me in. And then when you're reading the story, it's one of those books and circumstances where the art and the coloring are in complete
Harmony.
harmony. Yes,
Yeah.
perfect word.
Yeah.
Harmony with the
Yep.
story. And the story really makes you look at this super character in a
Mhm.
different way. Like you understand her daily struggle in a way that you
Yeah.
never did before. Like what she has to do to hold back from being her full self every day, just so she
That was
doesn't
a great part. Yeah.
completely wreck the environment around her or the people around her. That
Yeah.
the restrictions that she has to set upon herself daily as this super being just to coexist with every single other thing around her.
Yeah.
And not only that, just the genuine heart and character of this person, which really connects you to her in another way. Like that, the story
Mhm.
blew me away.
Yeah.
And I'm not a and me reading it had nothing to do with it being Tom King. That was the first thing I read by him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I
Really?
just really thought it was a great story.
That was
And
your first Tom King story?
yeah, because you know me, I'm not a big Batman guy, or I'm not a
Well, he's
big DC
not.
guy, and he's
DC
been
guy.
writing a lot of DC.
He has,
So
for sure.
I handpick here or there what I'm reading for DC. Like right now, I'm reading Danger Street. You know, it's got Lady Cop, so I was instantly in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. She's in
Lady
there.
Cop was not a great story back in the day, but there was still something to it that was fun, right?
Yeah. An attitude, at
So
least, right? Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Again, I'm picking that up not because of Tom King, just because of the characters involved. But
Yeah.
that I thought was probably one of the best Supergirl stories I had read. Because, like you
Yeah.
said, it really expands on the character. And
Mhm.
you said very dialogue heavy, and it was, but the story never felt slow because of the dialogue.
I agree. Yeah. There was a lot of internal monologue with and Supergirl's not even the main character.
Right,
Arguably, she's not the main character. The main character is this girl she teams up with on this revenge mission, and a lot of the words in that book are inner monologue, like journaling from a future, like a retrospective perception, right?
right.
And so it took a minute to get through all that. But like you said, I never felt like I was being bogged down. I never felt like, oh my God, there's another page of this dialogue. Because it was beautifully written. There was a dialect, or there was
And the visuals are
what was it?
magnificent.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Her and Comet flying through space, and they go right through, they have like that ET moment over across
Yep.
the sun, one of the suns. I'm telling you, harmony is the best word I think to use with that colorist and that artist.
And
It's
just the
great.
complete arc you got with that character from her perspective, I thought was really good too.
Yeah.
And that was like my red flag going into that book. I'm like, whenever they team up a hero with like a kid character, it
Yeah.
has a really high percentage chance of being kind of kitschy, right?
That's true.
And this one wasn't. It was just
wasn't.
really, it was just good. Like the character was fully realized.
Yeah.
And her reactions to things were reactions that you could relate to.
Yeah, because like there's lots of reasons why you need to hate the antagonist in this book, right? There's plenty of reason to, especially if you're a dog lover, let's say. And so there was a lot of moments, there's a lot of times in here where Supergirl kind of like loses it, and she shows a lot of a little less restraint where she typically would. There's a moment where I think one of Krem's like Goonies, he gets like stoned by this community that they wronged, right? And he's like the only one left, and like people were stoning him. But there was a moment where he got pelted with like 1,000 stones at once or something like that. And then it pans back over to Kara, and she just kind of has this little smirk on her face. You know what I mean? So like she got her revenge in a way.
Right. And
yeah.
if you read it, he had it coming. You were smirking.
He had it coming. You were like, I would have thrown the first stone, right?
You had the same smirk in your face she did.
Yeah.
There you go, you bastard.
And when she saw the atrocities that they were doing, I forget the how they were able to do that, but she lost it in one issue, and she had to fly away to escape, and it was just like,
and that was
felt it.
I need a timeout. And went off.
She did.
Went off to go shop for handbags.
And she did like the most Superman kind of thing that you could do to like escape and like blow off some steam. It was great.
Right. And to put so much humanity in a character that's essentially not of this earth.
Right.
But at the same time, making her the most human character of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to balance. it's hard to balance all that, but I think you did a great job, man.
Yeah, very
It's a
adept.
hell of a book. Yeah, it's great.
All right, so number 11 with an extended story attached, or with a personal story attached.
Personal story attached. Okay, so this is really the book. I think this is my first comic book. It's an interesting story. This is actually from Dynamite Comics. This is Freddy versus Jason versus Ash,
Oh, nice.
autographed presumably by one of the people that created this, although it doesn't match the names over here. But I'll tell you, well, perhaps this autograph down here does. But so in Nashville, they had a tattoo and horror convention back in, man, it must have been like the early 20 teens, something like that. And we were going, and I was a big Evil Dead, Army of Darkness fan my whole childhood and growing up and stuff.
Same here.
My brother got, yeah, right. Like who doesn't love Ash, right? We go to this convention and there's a comic book area, right? There's other stuff there, but there's like a comic book area, some celebrities and things. And I walk up to this table and I see Ash and I see him fighting Freddy and Jason. And I'm like, what is this beautiful thing right here that I don't know anything about? I got to go up to this table and just see what the heck this is, man. Right. And so I go up and it was like $10 for the comic or something like that. And I didn't know how this worked. There's a couple guys sitting there. I walk up. I'm like, hey, man, can I get a copy? He goes, sure.
Right.
And he hands me the book and he's like, well, do you want us to sign it? I'm like, sure, go ahead and sign it. I don't know who you are. Go ahead and sign it. And so they both sign it, both the guys that were there. And then I just take it home and I read it and I'm like, wow, what is this awesome thing? It was like a combination of all my childhood favorite horror stuff. And then, and Ash, it was just remarkable. So I think this is the book that really kind of started my entire comic collection in my adult life. And
You
so
got to get Bruce Campbell to sign that at some point.
I know. I love Bruce Campbell. I don't know what he's like on the con scene, unfortunately, at this point, but I don't think he's going to be any more Marvel movies for sure. And he's not in the new Evil Dead coming out, so he might have some extra time on his hand. But I think this is the first book I ever bought as an adult. That kind of started it all.
That new Evil Dead trailer was great.
It was great. I like the teaser more than the extended trailer, but I think it's going to be a fun time.
Well, and he's still involved. He's a producer of that series.
Yeah, I want to see him on screen, but I get it.
Oh,
he's not a spring chicken.
He's not, and he doesn't have the style that I think that they're looking for to make it like a true horror film. You know what I mean? He's too comical.
Oh, because the franchise took off when it went more comedy.
Yeah, when Evil Dead 2 came out and like they were like, "Hey, we can Ragnarok this," you know, and then they go and they keep going with it.
Really went.
And then Army of Darkness came out and really blew it out. Yeah.
That's just what we call pillow talk, baby. I love that. I love those movies. They're so great.
What about the sweet words you spoke? Come on, baby.
You got ugly real quick.
Maybe my boys keep getting to that book. Yeah.
So
Chinese jetline pilot.
And I got to talk, right? And I got to talk to you about this for a second, Nick, being a fan. When they announced Ash versus the Evil Dead, I was one, excited, and two, apprehensive. I'm like, how do you add characters to this? Yeah. And then Kelly and Pablo were just some of the best additional characters you could ever pair up with anyone.
Yeah.
And I thought they enhanced the whole universe. Like I love every single season of I've already watched it over a few times.
Yep.
Ash versus the Evil Dead is absolutely brilliant. Bruce Campbell's great in it. And what I like is they don't try to worry about being PC about anything. They just go all out. Yeah. And it's great to see Kelly and Pablo act accordingly to how un-PC Ash is. Like just the grunts, the groans, the eye rolling. But still, they care about him and they're doing their best to help him along the trail because there's still something about his character that's appealing to anyone he comes across, even though he's basically this slimy guy.
He is. He is. Yeah, he is.
That's the charm of Bruce Campbell.
It is. It is.
Like no one else could play Ash and make you care about him.
No. And I like how they brought back a lot of the stuff. You know, I think they had a couple jokes with like his boomstick and stuff. And of course they brought like the car back and he's like a slob and like things aren't really quite working out, but he's got to put the clothes back on. He's got to get the S-Mart jacket back on for, you know, so to speak, and kind of get back out there. And
the episode where the car was possessed was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was good. I like the return of him. I think
Lee
that was
Majors as his dad was great.
yeah,
And what an unexpected storyline that was. No spoilers.
yeah. I liked it. It was fun. It was fun to bring in some younger people to kind of like be in the shoes of people who might not be that familiar with the character in general. So they're kind of learning again, and we're all revisiting it and going like, oh, I get that. I know what that means. And so it was a cool show.
And I even liked his other stuff. So Carrie brought it up here. Yeah, I'm not a Western guy, but The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. was fun.
I never
And
saw
plus Jack of all trades with him.
it. Didn't see that one either.
All right, so yeah, just things where he's kind of the same kind of character, like the same sense of off-putting humor, but
Yeah.
it's in a different character portrayed. Really fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, she's like all about the evil puppet Ash. Yeah, if you're a horror show, you're not a horror show until you have your evil puppet show, right? Like Angel and Buffy, and then
Yeah.
of course Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Ashy slashy.
You're good, Ash, and I'm bad, Ash.
You're goody.
You're goody little two shoes. So funny. I love
Oh,
it.
so good. All right.
Yeah.
So, what is your
What's
spec
on your
pick?
face?
Spec, we talked about this character a little bit already tonight, but I think it's inevitable to come along, and it's a relatively new book to the collection. So this is actually Superman 123. This is from 1958. This is the Supergirl tryout. So this is actually when this is like a version of her, right? So it's not like our main Supergirl.
Right. It's not Kara.
It's not, yeah. And I can't remember. This is 58. So when did Action bring her in? I got to go back and look at the exact. It must have been after this or something like that. But this is a character that's inevitably going to hit the DCU, however they want to revamp it, and I think it's unavoidable. And she's just such an amazing character. The different iterations of her, and again, it was really my opinion of her was solidified after the book we just talked about, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. But I think if you look at where they could go in the DCU, the different characters they can bring up that have made a big impact in multiple different ways, I think that you can't avoid Supergirl. And I think the tryout issue is especially cool because she teams up with Superman here and she runs around like stopping trains and putting out fires and saving cats from trees or whatever, right? And then she has a run in with some kryptonite and kind of disappears. And never to be seen
I think
again.
I first saw on my buddy's show, Only Slabs. I think Doc brought that book out one episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's a book that my shop that I work a lot with, cadets, they have like a monthly like comic get together, and we trade books and things like that. And I asked the group, hey, bring some Supergirl stuff. And one of my buddies brought this one in. It's got the subscription crease right down the middle. You can probably see that in the reflection there. So I mean, it's a 1/8. It's nothing great, but I don't care, man. It's in that.
I'll say that doesn't matter. You have the book.
Exactly. It's mine condition. That's the condition that it's in.
Right.
And what's hilarious was I didn't even realize this. On the back is Daisy air rifles.
There you go. There's a lot of them on the back of those in that era.
So we've come full circle, guys.
Right.
We have come full circle.
Is the Red Rider on the back of it? Because
yeah. So pretty amazing. I love it. I'm so glad it's here. I've been collecting a lot of Supergirl stuff, and actually been reading up on her Silver Age stuff too. So
well, and I think with how popular the TV show was, it's definitely they're gonna bring her into a movie at some. There's the old movie is fun in a cheesy bad way.
Yeah, I got to revisit that. It's been a minute.
Right.
There's definitely don't see a lot of. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of people going out and actively working on runs of Supergirl. So I would imagine it's a nice, affordable series to be able to get into. And
yeah. I think it's just me and Justin from No Good. I think it's just me and him trying to collect.
I think she's a more interesting character than Clark Kent.
I think so too, especially with the additional context we now have.
Right.
I think that's fair for sure. I hope she takes off, but not before I can collect a few more gems.
Awesome.
Oh, great!
Yep.
And a spec book we haven't seen on here before, and a book
Yeah.
in that particular book, which doesn't come up very often.
Yeah, I just like the idea of her having a training day. Just hanging out with Superman, just trying things out, you know. Here, I'll pull the train, you fix the track. You know what I mean? Like just teaming up. So yeah.
This version with the short hair.
The Girl of Steel. She does have short hair in this version. Yep.
Now, do you remember what that Supergirl's name was?
I
Does it say
don't.
it on the blue label at all?
I'm trying to remember. No, it just says Supergirl tryout. Superman returns to Krypton. I wonder if they just called her Girl of Steel or something like that. They didn't really quite give her the moniker yet. She's not like a, was it like a Linda Lang or whatever her persona was in the early Silver Age days.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh, great book.
I need to crack it, and we can thumb
That's it.
through it one
Do it
day.
right now.
Open it. Let's do it. It's a 1/8. I don't care. I prefer my old books unslabbed anyway, so that's just so happened to come in a slab.
Now, are like Rob and I, are you do you like the smell of the old books?
I do. So I grew up. My parents were really into antiques, and so I was like, against my will, I was dragged through antique store after antique store after antique store growing up, and so I feel like I have that smell. Like I can just bring it back whenever I think about it. And so as I grew up, I developed more of an appreciation for just older things. And so whenever I'm able to get an older book from like the 50s or 60s, something like that, some of them even newer, that smell just takes you right back. It's like walking into a library or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Nothing
It's
like
awesome.
inhaling a bunch of mold spores and stuff. So
It's
good.
great. It's
Right.
great. It's great. Yeah. Yeah. So
I know I do it with all my Bronze Age books. It's like I'm going to read it, but first, okay.
yeah. And like I mentioned, like I don't like encapsulating older books personally. I'll encapsulate modern stuff whenever, just because. But like, I want that ability to crack it. I want to be able to like feel it and thumb through it. I think I appreciate, from growing up in that kind of a background, I feel like I understand the importance of like the cultural significance of it and the fact that it's like a first print or whatever it is.
And it's a
I just want it
timestamp for that
free.
era
Yeah.
too.
Exactly. It's like,
There's books I've read that I can't, I'm like, okay, I got to get these into a slab quick because I'm like, either the pages are just practically flaking apart as you're
That's
doing it, or the
what this one's
pages are
doing.
so soft and you're just
That's
like,
true.
and you're just like, oh my God, this thing's just,
Well, this ASM right here, that Medusa, where are we? That Medusa strangling Spider-Man.
70 something.
Forgive me, yeah, I forget the number. That one was very much in that kind of a condition. The crease and the folds and everything were completely gone, riddled with mold. Rogue Trader actually fixed that one up and archive papered it and everything like that and fixed it. But it was in that same condition you said, like you touch the pages and you feel like it would disintegrate. And I'm like, dude, you got to hook me up. I don't know what to do with this book. He's like, I'll take care of you, man.
He's working on I have a timely Submariner book that I rescued out of Australia, and
nice.
it was had some mold in the slab that he's cracked it and he's doing
in the slab.
Yeah, he's doing mold remediation. It's an old slab, so it didn't have the gas exchange. So you seal it with the Florida humidity.
Of course, that's Sarasota weather. Yeah.
And then you send it to Australia because it was in Australia where the heat just really got that going, right?
Sure.
So it's going through multi-month mold remediation process and stuff before we send it back off, and then we're going to do a nice kind of like before and after and talk about the story of not only my rescuing it, but the whole process of
the restoration process,
trying to conserve the book and preserve it. You know, the gamble I'm taking because it was a slabbed 5.0.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always, he warned me it would take a few days. He's like, I got to do this. Whatever this process is, I don't understand it. But he's like, it's going to take me several repeats to kind of get this to a place where I feel comfortable sending it back. I'm like, do your magic, man. And he did.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here when it's done.
Yeah. So it depends on the smell, Gary. How about that? It depends on what I'm smelling.
Right.
But it is great. It is great. So.
All right, excellent. Well, great episode, Nick. Great books. I love that you brought a few things on that we haven't seen before, which is incredible.
Awesome. Sweet,
but we'll go around real quick. Rob, what's coming up for you, sir?
Thursday I'll open up a box of something. Actually, I know it'll be 2 Barbarian Kung Fu $25 customized mystery boxes on Thursday, but Saturday, of course, is the main thing. It's only slabs. And gosh, off the top of my head, I'm trying to. Oh, Daymares is coming on this week on
The king of
only
slabs.
So
Yeah.
it's a nice episode. Come on out, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, and we'll have ourselves the usual ball that we have with only slabs.
Nice. And Nick, what's coming up for you, sir?
Yeah, I'll be back on Thursday for Usual Suspects. That'll be great. I have my Nick at Night coming up, weekly review show on Saturday. I have just my haul videos and whatnot going on. We have the Blame Fable show on.
I was going to say, plus you have the IG show with Fable.
You have the IG show with Fable. Great guy. One collection down on Instagram. Saturdays at noon Central. Love doing that show. We've been doing it for a month or two now, so we're going to keep going. We have guests booked until February. So thank you very much for joining us, Gary, on that. It was awesome.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. And then I'll also be with Justin and John. We're going to be doing some X-Men book talk next Tuesday. So I think we're in like the 168 range, something like that. I got to double check and do my reading there, but it's going to be a fun time talking about some X-Men over there. And I hope I didn't forget anything. So yeah, man, I really appreciate you having me on. It was a ball, man.
If not, click the links below, go to the channel, hit the subscribe, hit the notify, and you won't miss anything.
Hit the join button, go to Patreon. No, don't do whatever.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
check it out.
like in all my videos, when I have a guest, your links are in the description. So my co-host links are always in there. The guest links are always in there.
Yeah.
So sub these guys up on Instagram, sub them up on YouTube, follow their content. Great guys. We don't have anyone on here you shouldn't follow. But
Yeah.
Great community people.
Yeah,
Nick's
thanks,
been in this a bit. So Nick,
Yeah.
thank you so much, man. It was an absolute pleasure to actually have some sit down talk time with you and get to know you even more from our Blame Fable discussion.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Great time. Looking forward to Thursday. Thanks again, dude. Thanks so much.
right.
Appreciate it. You've been an amazing member of the community as well. So thanks for everything you both do. It's an honor to speak to both of you. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, and like he just said, tune in Thursday night where it's the straight interview show with Nick, where we're going to learn about his comic book collecting origins, what he got into it, what's important to him, and a little bit about him just in general, right? Straight interview show. So we're going to have a blast.
He was bitten by a radioactive comic book.
Right?
Comic book. Or I ate a bad ice cream. One of those two.
Or
we'll find out.
Ice cream.
Well, maybe you could be Funnel Cake Man. Who knows?
Funnel Cake Man.
Right.
You didn't copyright that yet, right? I'm right that down.
Thank you to the chat who came out. We really appreciate you guys. We had a fantastic chat going tonight. A lot of fun going on there.
Awesome.
And for those of you catching us on Rewind, we certainly appreciate your time, your consideration, your subscriptions, and any amount of time you spend watching our programming. Mm-hmm. We do this because we love it, and we also love interacting with you guys, the audience. So until next time, keep it casual. Attention all, use channel sponsor Rogue Trader at theroguetraderutah.com and my code Keep It Casual for 10% off your comic cleaning and pressing needs. Remember, when submitting your books to be graded, use a trusted professional.
Ta-da!